Welcome back, everybody. My name is Brett Graves, and this is part two of the Python tutorial that I'm doing this whole course. So we're just going to get right into it. A couple things I forgot to mention are comments in Python. I almost said Visual Basic. Anyway, in Python, comments are useful for whenever a lot of people are working on the same kind of project. So, like, say you're working for some software development team and you'll do a section of code that executes or does something while someone else's part does another thing, and together they do something. But if they need to tweak anything, comments you can leave after your code to just help them kind of briefly go over what's going on, kind of like a summary of what's happening. So in Python, you start this with a pound symbol or hashtag. I call it a pound symbol, but today it's a hashtag, so whatever. Yeah, pretty much everything after the text, such as like right here, it's gonna change color within Genie. I think it's green. But yeah, everything after the pound symbol, the compiler, or whenever you execute something, it's no longer gonna read anything after that pound symbol until the next line starts. So it's just, it doesn't mean anything to the compiler, which we'll go into Genie right now actually and show you that. So we'll do print hello. Oh, forgot my in quotation. And say I wanted to leave a message normally, like you would think. You was like, this is a print function. Now, when we try to execute that, it's going to give us a syntax error. But if we do a pound sign after that, oh, it turns into red, my bad, in Genie. And when we execute it, it just sees this part of the code, just the print hello. It totally disregards everything after that. Now, if I want to, but as I said before, it kind of, the pound symbol isn't useful or used anymore if you start on a new line. So say if I wanted to continue the function or the comment on the next line, you have to do another pound symbol before that, so it turns red, as you can see. So yeah, those are comments. It's very good practice, very good to use those. A lot of people use them, and sometimes they can help you even after, like, you say you did the project or program that you've been working on for a while, and then you come back like a month later and you have no idea what any of this does, which I've done before with homework assignments, which really sucked because I had to like pretty much start over. I had no idea what was going on. So it can save you a lot of time. So syntax errors, what we just went over before, or just a second ago, and in this example that I gave. So say we wanted to, another thing you can do with print, instead of quotation marks, you can do apostrophes or single quote. But you want to be careful when you use single quote. I always say do quotation marks because you can't mess them up like you do here. So when you open up a single quotation mark and type in something, so like, but you also have something possessive. So let's like say that's Brett's pencil. I don't know. And then you try to end quote. See how there's already kind of a color. You can see in the color that something's wrong. It highlights this part. What it's doing, if you try to execute that, it's gonna come up with a syntax error. And what's useful about Python is that in the terminal, it kind of points to where around the issue is happening. So this says just invalid syntax, and syntax is, just the format of what you're typing, like the way how Python reads something. So what it's doing here is it's reading that first apostrophe and it's ending it at the second apostrophe, even though we want it to end at this third one. So we wouldn't have a problem if we did just quotation marks. So quotation mark, quotation mark. That does the whole thing and it works properly. So try to use quotation marks, not single quotes. So that is a syntax error, and you can, there are other syntax errors, but it's useful to read that little message it gives you to where the syntax error is occurring. So that's pretty neat. All right, now we're going to move on to numbers, which we're going to discover two new data types. That's both the integer and the float. They both hold numeric values or numbers. Yeah, duh. Integers are, well, that just says whole. I meant whole numbers. So they hold whole or negative, or positive or negative whole numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and so on. Float is whenever numbers with decimals in them. So like 0.5, 0.05, 1.5, yada yada. You understand, right? Anyway, you can, do the order operations: plus, minus, divide, multiply with these symbols next to them. Plus, obviously plus, minus, obviously minus. Divide is a slash, and multiply is an asterisk. So very simple. Actually, I'll show you right here in code what happens whenever you do that in Genie. So 2 times 3. Actually, you're going to need a print, my bad. So open parentheses and close parentheses. So that's how you display it. If you want to do quick math real quick, you do 2 times 3, execute that, and it's going to give you a 6. So yeah, pretty neat. And then, you can do the other examples if you want and try to learn yourself. That is fine. You can always pause this video whenever you feel like it. Alright, so that was float numbers and integers. Now we're going to go on to data type errors. So say for this example, you wanted to concatenate or join together an integer and a string. And we're going to do this by, so say we have a variable and we want to give it an integer. So we'll give it 3. And then we also want to have a message that says Brett is in. Then we're going to concatenate with the plus symbol like we talked about before. He's in num, which should print out 3, right? And then RD place. Brett is in, what it should say, or what we think it's going to say, is in 3rd place. So we're going to print message. Alright, so we're going to try to execute that. And we think it's going to say Brett is in 3rd, the 3 right here, and then RD place. Brett is in 3rd place. But really it's going to give us a type error. So this is happening because because variables can only hold one, or it can only be one data type. It can't contain 2 data types like we're trying to do here in message. We're trying to add strings and integers. So it says can only concatenate str, which is string, not int, to string. So in order to fix this, and if you follow along the PowerPoint, I believe it's the next one, is data conversion. So what we're going to try to do is to convert this num into a string and not a number. So like I said, we can only have one data type, so might as well convert it to string. And you can't I don't believe you can convert string into numbers. No, you can't convert letters into numbers. So we're going to turn the numbers into letters. So to do that, we're going to do str, which is string. And what it's doing is converting that number, or that letter 3, or I'm sorry, that number 3, but it's converting it into a letter, so a character on the keyboard. As I said before, strings can be numbers, letters, anything like that. But it's no longer going to be a number after this. It's going to be a string now. It's a character. So when we execute that, now it's going to say Brett is in 3rd place. So yeah, pretty cool. It's going to be very important when in the future when we're outputting tons of text and also mixing it with data or numbers. Now this can be a little bit tricky, but it's best to learn it now while we're learning kind of new stuff, I think. Anyway, a list is pretty much like a collection of items. The items are known as elements, and they're put in a specific order. Now, the part that's confusing is the way that they are numbered. So say we had a list that had 100 elements or 100 items in it. I don't know, they could be names, which is what I did. I didn't do 100, but I did 5, as you can see below. The starting point which is going to be the starting point, which is the lower bound. It's also known as the lower bound, or we're going to say starting point, is going to be 0. And 0, or whatever position that the item or element is in the list, is also known as the index. So sorry for this like kind of clutter, but it's important to know these because that's the way I'm going to be referring to them as. So the first element is always going to be 0. Now the ending, also known as upper bound, is going to be 99 in this case, because the numbering starts at 0. Now that can be a little bit weird, so everything's going to be off by like 1. Alright, so now to declare a list, which we're going to do in Genie, what you do is, first is the name of the list, and you kind of want to keep these plural, because you don't want to, because name could easily be just a variable, like Brett. But say if we want multiple names, it's easier to put plural, because list means something, a collection, not just one single element. So we'll do names equals, and then how you do that is just a square bracket right there, and then quotations Brett. So that's one element. Then we'll do Owen, then say Kyle, and you're separating each one with a comma after the closing parenthesis, or quotations, excuse me. Let's say Emmett, and so we'll do those, and then a close bracket, and that's our list. So say we want it to print the list. You'd think it'd be like this, right? But when you execute that, it's going to give it to you in this format. It works, but it's going to give it to you in this format. So how do we get them to get it to display like the way we want it to, just the actual element itself? What you're going to do is, after names, you're going to do an open bracket and a close bracket, and then whatever index that you want it. So like I said, 0 is going to be the first index, so that's going to be the first name, which is Brett. So this should execute and have Brett. So say we wanted the last one. Now, since we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements, it's going to be off by 1, because 0 is the starting count. So if we print out names in the 4th index, it's going to be Chase. So yeah, that's very important. So one more thing is, say we're looking at someone's program and their list goes on forever, which it shouldn't, because that's not very good practice, but let's say it did. But you don't know how many elements are in the list, but you want the last one. So if you don't know how many is in the list, you can't just guess the number. I mean, you could, but that would take forever. To get the very last element, which we already know the first, which is going to be 0. To get the last one, it's going to be -1. So instead of 4, we can also put -1, and that's going to output Chase as well, which is the last in the list. So yeah, that's lists for you. That's about all we're gonna, actually, no, we can do this. Just a quick little practice to go over the methods that we learned in the past. We could do like dot title added upon that to combine old things that we learned. And look, it capitalizes the first letter of the name, which we can also do to upper, and that would do all caps. So yeah, pretty cool. We're using what we learn. There you go. That's what a lot of people ask in school, is like, are we ever going to use this? Well, you're using it right now. I don't know. It's probably not as practical as I say it is, but hey. Alright, so that's going to be about it for today. I know it was pretty short. I do have like a little bonus thing here for you that I thought was pretty neat that I found out. It's called the Zen of Python. It's a neat little implementation like within Python that they added. If you actually go into the terminal of Python, so if you open up your Windows and type in Python and open up the actual terminal, not Genie, and you type in import this, something called the Zen of Python shows up by Tim Peters. And basically it's like a philosophy of what is good common practice, you know, stuff. I don't know, it's pretty neat. I have a link right here that goes in a bit more in that you can read, that I thought was pretty neat. But something example like beautiful is better than ugly, you know, write good code. And then simple is better than complex. If you have like two ways of solving something and they both work, one's simple, one's complex, always go with the simple one. Stuff like that. So that's pretty neat. But anyway, that's going to be it for today. Thank you again for watching. Make sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this. Alright, thank you. Have a good one.